two, one. Welcome back to Firelands Federal Credit Union Lunch and Learn podcast, where we help you protect what you've built and make smarter financial decisions every single day. Today, we're diving into tax-aware estate planning, one of the most important and misunderstood parts of securing your family's future. And we've brought in two absolute pros. First, Bill Murray, founder and attorney at law, who spent years guiding families through the legal side of estate planning. And joining him is Jeremy Pifer, CFP, a financial planner who specializes in tax-smart strategies that keep more of your hard-earned wealth where it belongs. This is going to be a powerful conversation. So let's get into it. Bill, what exactly is tax-aware estate planning?
Yep, so tax-aware estate planning is an additional layer on top of estate planning. So the primary goal of estate planning is to avoid probate, right? And that's the pretty burdensome and expensive process, a court process that you would go through if you die without an estate plan. So we want to help people to avoid that first. And then secondly, we want to make sure assets are managed prudently for your beneficiaries and protected for future generations.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of planning around minors inheriting, for example. We want to make sure that assets are managed for minors, that minors don't get access to assets too early. And then, we want to keep it in the family too. When we have these discussions, one of our biggest questions is, if your child inherits and then after that gets divorced, are you okay with the ex-spouse in that case getting half of their inheritance?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is almost always no. So, it's a way to protect the assets for your child and eventually your grandchildren. So then the third layer there is the tax portion. We want to optimize your estate for taxes. In other words, make sure your heirs pay the least amount of taxes when they inherit your assets. So the main focus is directing IRD assets to the beneficiaries in lower tax brackets, and then directing the taxable assets like real estate and taxable brokerage accounts to higher earning beneficiaries.
And as we dive into this is a lot of information to unpack. You use the term IRD assets. What does that exactly mean?
So it means income in respect of a decedent. So that's a fancy way of saying retirement accounts. So your traditional IRAs, 401ks, those types of accounts. And those assets have not been taxed yet. You owe regular income tax on those dollars when they come out. And so $1 of retirement or IRD assets is worth more to a lower tax bracket beneficiary because they're going to pay less tax on that than $1, for a higher earning beneficiary.
Absolutely. So why is that such a big deal?
Well, because your beneficiaries have to pay tax on that money. There's no way to get around that, right? The government's going to get their cut, whereas taxable assets get stepped up cost basis. So if you inherit a $250,000 residence, for example, even if the original cost of that house was $50,000, you inherit it as if you paid $250,000. So there's no capital gains tax on that. So it's a huge advantage to inherit taxable assets versus retirement assets. So we've got a good example up here of $1 million estate where you've got $500,000 traditional IRA, and then a residence worth $250,000, and a brokerage account worth $250,000. So, and then you've got two beneficiaries, very different tax brackets. So if you do everything sort of conventionally and just split that IRA in half, and then $250,000 of taxable assets to each beneficiary, you end up with an unequal outcome because of the tax difference. So what we do is we build a trust that points to the retirement assets and says, we know these assets are going to go to the lower earning beneficiary, and so we will allow the trustee to make an unequal distribution from the trust assets, the taxable assets, to have an equalized after-tax outcome. And you can see in this example, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars of tax savings on $1 million estate.
Gotcha. And that's how you accomplish that for our members that come see you. That's it with the taxes. So, Jeremy, where do Roth conversions fit into this?
Well, Roth conversions are a strategy that we use. All those accounts that Bill was talking about, those qualified retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks, just as he explained, they go in before taxes, they grow tax-free, and they come out fully taxable as ordinary income. Roth, which we are big fans of, you pay the taxes first, so you're done. You don't have that government lien on it anymore. It grows tax-free, comes out tax-free for both you and for your beneficiaries. So, what Bill's saying is everybody just kind of splits puts their beneficiaries, just splits them evenly between their kids. And again, this one is one that's going to be better for those higher income earners, or even for the lower income earners, because they just get it and the taxes have been paid. So it's over. So we go through the process of figuring out, if it's a good fit for somebody to convert their traditional retirement accounts to a Roth. And we run those calculations, and sometimes we see incredible savings over the life of a plan. When adjusted for tax equivalence, we'll see that people will have 6, even 7 figures more on their side of the ledger than they would otherwise.
Yeah, Dan, I would just add, it's not just your heirs that are paying less taxes in that situation too.
Yeah.
I know we're talking estate planning, but Roth conversion planning is very much about the amount of tax you're going to pay in your lifetime too.
Yeah.
It gets RMDs down. Those are your required minimum distributions that you have to take once you hit 74. So if we can get the value of IRA assets down, then you're going to pay less, or you're going to have to take fewer or smaller RMDs, pay less tax, and it can affect your Medicare premiums as well.
Wow. So, establishing a relationship with your financial advisor very early on as you map out your retirement. But as we talk about Roth, when do Roth conversions usually make the most sense?
Yeah, there is kind of a sweet spot before they start having to receive those required minimum distributions, it depends on what year you're born, but it's somewhere between 72 and 75 these days. So the sweet spot for doing that conversion is somewhere in your mid 60s to your mid 70s. And what you do is over that period, you start converting a bit every year, making sure you stay out of that upper tax brackets. But you pay the taxes in between there, and then move it so that it can grow over your life and come out tax free at the end.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
As we go through this, we hear a lot about Medicaid asset protection trusts. Should everyone have one?
So we get a lot of questions about Medicaid asset protection trusts or MAPs, and we're always going to look at the entire picture. But I'd say for every person who asks, very few are actually sort of in that sweet spot, so to speak, of someone who needs one. Usually, it doesn't make sense. The most important thing to understand about MAPs is that they're irrevocable trusts, so they can't be undone. Once you've done it, there's no going back. And MAPs, because they're an irrevocable trust, they require their own tax filings and they pay higher tax rates. So it has to be worth the extra tax cost for it to make sense to do it.
Mm-hmm. And there's the 5-year look back, which is important for people to know too, if they need to fit.
Yeah, you've got to do it soon enough. Usually people are starting to talk about it when it's probably too late. You've got to do it young enough that you're not applying for Medicaid within 5 years of creating the trust.
And with your experience with this, helping people to Firelands Wealth Management, what's the biggest misconception about Medicaid trusts?
Yeah, this actually goes back to the previous question or previous talk about revocable trust, which is what that is, that no trust, whether it's revocable or irrevocable, can be retirement accounts. My apologies. Retirement assets cannot be put into a trust, any kind of trust. So for Medicaid eligibility, those have to be spent down first. Mm-hmm. So what we usually find is that most people have a decent amount of retirement assets, and because those have to be spent down first, and because long-term care costs, you typically pay for long-term care costs with Social Security income, for example, plus income from your retirement assets. Just the cost and administrative burden of creating a MAP is just not worth it.
Great. So when someone comes to see you at Firelands Wealth Management, how do you help clients decide whether a Medicaid trust makes sense for them?
Sort of following our general process for any type of trust. It's to look at the whole picture and see if it makes sense for you. It depends a lot on what you have in retirement assets, what you have in taxable assets, and your goals. I mean, we are goals-based firm, right? We're always looking at your goals. Is your goal to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, or is your goal to protect your assets for future generations? Or do you want to bounce the check to the undertaker, as we say?
Right, I understand. As we get into this, the first conversations, when should I start thinking about getting in touch with you guys? When I'm coming in and monitoring my accounts, when's the best time to start thinking I need to get in touch with Bill or Jeremy, start talking about my retirement? Is there a particular age that you think, it's time?
Immediately, yeah. It's never too early to start planning for retirement. Fortunately, planning for your eventual demise, right? Everyone should have an estate plan, no matter how old they are. We've dealt with a wide variety of folks. People who've come into money because of a sudden death, people dealing with that kind of thing. And, we want to make sure you're not dealing with probate or, worst case scenario, we can help walk you through that process. But everyone should have an estate plan and everyone should have a financial plan. Yeah.
If we can talk about something that's unique about us, it's that we combine all these things together. So usually people have their estate planning attorney, they have their financial advisor, they have their tax professional, CPA or tax preparer, their insurance, their credit union or bank. We try to combine all of these services under one roof. Where not only are you paying one fee, asset management fee with us, and we provide all of these services, but also we're all talking to each other. Whereas if your CPA isn't necessarily talking to your estate planner or your financial advisor, so we're unique in the sense that we're all under one roof, one fee, not individual. It's not a la carte. It's all one fee built in. Although we do some a la carte stuff, yes, but primarily one fee. Covered, and it's all under one roof. Everybody's communicating with each other. So I don't know too many other firms that are doing it that way. We're excited about that.
That's fantastic, Jeremy, and thank you for that. So walk me through it a little bit. Is that something that we can do in branch, or can I come over to your place? Normally, how did this first interaction happen? We set up how long is this first meeting, and then the subsequent meetings?
Yeah.
How much time am I carving out? Am I talking to you guys monthly? Am I talking every 6 months, every year? What is the anticipated length of time and type of contact we're going to have?
Well, I get grumpy after about an hour of any meeting. So I try and keep any meeting I have to about an hour. This is only a half an hour. So it falls in the category, so I'm okay. But generally, the first meeting is about an hour long. And just having that first one is just gathering some data maybe and sort of getting to know each other, getting to know the client's goals, making sure that it's a good fit. And then from there, if it is a good fit, then we start the relationship where maybe we start to manage some of the assets or put together a trust for them or whatever's necessary for the situation. But we meet honestly as often as the client needs to.
Okay.
Which could be as little as once a year, but as more often if necessary. So we're kind of always on call, for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add that first of all, that the initial consultation, until you actually engage us to manage your assets, everything is free. We're happy to meet with you and give a consultation for free. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our fiduciary role. A lot of times people come in and they say, "Do I really need a trust?" And the answer is often no. You don't need a trust necessarily to avoid probate. You can do it with a will and the proper titling of accounts. And I think that's, again, where our fiduciary role comes in. Because it's included, we're not going to push trust because we make more money drafting a trust than we do doing a will.
Sure.
So if all you need is a will, if your situation is simple enough, then we'll do a will for you instead.
Gotcha. So I'll ask this final question. I'll pose it to both of you. Bill, with you leading more of the legal end of it, and Jeremy, you with the financial planning. Bill, what's if people can remember just one thing from today's program in this session, from the legal point of view at Firelands Wealth Management, what should it be?
Yeah, I think it's that our mantra is that planning is ongoing. So estate planning is not drafting some documents, signing them, and then you're done, right? It's an ongoing process of reviewing it every year, making sure it still is keeping up with tax law changes, other changes in your life situation, for example, and then making sure that that it's accomplishing the goals you want. One of the biggest mistakes we see is not titling assets properly. For example, should either be in your trust or it should be have a transfer on death affidavit recorded with it so that it avoids probate, goes straight to your beneficiaries, to your trust. Same with your bank accounts. You know, you might just overlook that your $5,000 bank account doesn't have a payable on death instruction, and that's going to have to go through probate. So it's just crossing all those T's
Sure.
and dotting all those I's to make sure that you're actually accomplishing that goal of avoiding probate.
Well, a follow-up question to that, if I may. So when I have changes in my family, whether it be a new grandchild, whether it be an unfortunate passing of one of a family member that's a beneficiary, is that something I need to update with you? If we're working together, you know, any family changes going on with my beneficiaries, is that something I should follow up with you? And could you tell me a little bit about how I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just part of our annual review process is, you know, asking about those life changes. And those are some really good examples. Another good example that I always bring up is you've named maybe friends or family, siblings or something as executors of your estate or a successor trustee of your trust. And, you know, 5, 10 years down the road, your children are now, you know, 25, 30 years old. You probably want to have your children administer your estate at some point. So you've got to make that change as well. Just one good example of something that just always seems to come up. So, yeah, and then obviously we're reviewing the retirement account beneficiary designations, and that can change based on our whole tax strategy. So we want to make sure those are up to date every year too. And you know, to your point, adding any additional grandchildren, children to the plan.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. Moving on, Jeremy, from a financial planning perspective, after today's session and communicating about Roth, communicating about different tax implications that happen, what's one thing that people can remember from today, and what would you want them to know?
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, the best day to start investing and start financial planning is 10 years ago. The second best day is today, right? So get started as soon as possible would be a big point of advice. You know, time's a wasting. Get on it. And, you know, the other thing is just to make sure that you are working with an advisor that is a fiduciary and is also an ongoing relationship. We've had people ask just for a financial plan, for us to build a financial plan for them. And they didn't really want to have an ongoing relationship. Just please build me a plan and we'll be on our way. And we decided that that's just not, we don't think that's in our fiduciary responsibility to just hand somebody a plan that we know in a year that plan is going to be worthless because market conditions change, life conditions change. You need to have an ongoing relationship of somebody who, you know, has your best interest.
Well, it sounds like I got to hurry up and get a relationship with you guys going pretty soon here. But the way that you can get in touch with Bill and Jeremy are at firelandswealth.com. You can reach them by phone. It's on our slide here, 419-616-0092, or firelandsfcu.org. You can find your way to Firelands Wealth Management. And gentlemen, thank you so much for this wealth of information.
Who doesn't want to talk about death and taxes
Oh,
on
my
a Friday afternoon?
Sure, why not? Why not? Right after lunch. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, this is a time that becomes fun and interactive. It's time for you, as our members and invitees into this program, to be able to ask questions in real time to our tax estate planning professionals. So we'll take we've got a few minutes here that the Q&A portion of it. So please feel free to type in any questions that you may want to share with us, and our pros here can answer them.
Or maybe we were just so knowledgeable here that there are no questions.
Well, generally there are a couple of questions. Let's see. I see the dots going. All right, let me see. Let me put the glasses on. Here's a question. Great. Is it too late to do Roth conversions after I retire?
No, not at all. In fact, like you said, that sweet spot is kind of that mid 60s to mid 70s. So if folks aren't retired at that point, they're sure getting close. But sometimes they definitely are. We do conversions for people that are in retirement. Almost, I mean, probably more often than not.
Yeah,
Retired
absolutely.
already.
Retired, yeah, when you're on Medicare, but before the RMDs. But you can absolutely do it after RMD age as well, and you will definitely see some benefits. So, especially for your heirs, the longer you wait to do Roth conversions, the more it benefits the next generation than it does you.
Gotcha. I guess everyone wants to know about Roths. We had another question that came in about Roths. Do Roth IRAs, let's see, how do they have to be emptied within 10 years as well?
Yeah, so I mentioned that 10-year rule
Okay.
before. I think I mentioned it, but yeah, that's the current legislation. And yeah, any IRA, including Roth IRAs, with certain exceptions, have to be completely emptied within 10 years of inheriting them. Now, that does not apply to spousal beneficiaries. And treatment for minor beneficiaries is also a little bit different. If you inherit an IRA as a minor, which we usually discourage people from doing. I think I maybe mentioned that we don't want minors named as beneficiaries directly. We'd rather have a trust named as a beneficiary, have it managed for them. But the children would follow the stretch IRA rules, where they take it over their life expectancy, and then when they become an adult, then they have to follow the 10-year rule. So it's kind of
Well, it's less of an issue with the Roth, right? Because when you're pulling it out, it's when you have the traditional stuff that you're inheriting, just in case Bill didn't cover it, I don't remember either, but you have 10 years to pull it out. And the reason you'd want to do that is because if you pulled it all out in the first year, that would be all ordinary income added to your taxes for that year. So what you want to do is split it out over those 10 years to, reduce the tax.
Gotcha. We got time for a couple of more. Let's see if they come in. Here's one. Should all of my children inherit the same assets?
No, I mean, I think that's sort of the question we were answering today. It depends on the situation. If they're all in similar tax brackets, then sure. But if you've got children in different tax brackets, that's where, even if they're kind of close, that's where we can sort of micromanage the beneficiary designations and the trust distributions to optimize for taxes. So yeah, like I said, we want to push the taxable assets to the higher earning beneficiaries and the taxable retirement assets to the lower earning beneficiaries.
Bill, so to make that real plain, and I'll interject here, so in one situation, I've got a daughter that is a physician, and then another that's a homemaker. Love them both equally, but in that case, you're saying my daughter that's a physician. Give me an example there. She should be
inheriting either the taxable assets, like your real estate, or your brokerage accounts, non-retirement assets, or perhaps Roth IRAs. Roth assets would be better for her as well.
Okay.
And then the other daughter, more retirement assets. Now, in practice, that means that dollar wise, the homemaker daughter is going to get a little bit more, but she's going to have to pay tax on those. And so it's equalized after taxes.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
People think, again, you have 2 kids, you split all your beneficiaries 50-50 between them. I'm being equal to all my kids. But the reality is each of those kids might have a different situation. So it isn't actually equal. And one of the things we try to do is make sure we go through and make it as equal as possible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And my youngest daughter, she hasn't entered into the professional ranks yet, but anytime that changes, she's also pursuing a medical degree and eventually want to follow in the footsteps of her sister. So then that's when I visit you all and say, hey, Bill, she's out of medical school now. She's getting into her, residency, that type of thing. Is that something I need to revisit with you guys in my annual?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll give you another really good example when you've got maybe a wide age disparity in beneficiaries as well, which I've seen. If you're getting towards the end of your life and you've got one child that's much older, it's actually a huge benefit to push, even if they're maybe right now in the same tax bracket. You want to push the retirement assets to the one who's going to retire soon, because when you pass, one beneficiary might be retired, whereas one might still be working. And that's, again, something that we would look at as you get as you move along.
Sure.
Yeah. And make those beneficiary designation changes.
And our final question, this is from an anonymous user. Does my relationship with Firelands Wealth Management include planning, investment management, tax planning and preparation, and maximization of Roth conversions?
That might be from my mom. That's perfect tee-up. It's a perfect tee-up. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate that. Go ahead, Bill.
Yes, with one caveat, there is an asset threshold for estate planning and tax prep to be included, and that's $250,000 of assets that we manage at FWM. But yeah, if you're over that threshold, everything's included. Yeah, you're not going to pay any extra cost tax prep, actually filing your taxes as well as the tax planning. Yeah.
But even if you're under 250, we don't have any minimum. So there's still a lot of services we can provide for folks under that.
And we're very reasonable for members as well, much cheaper. I always ask people, if you find someone who's offering it cheaper than this, please let me know.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic to know that there's a whole team behind me here at Firelands, not only as a member, but approaching the Firelands Wealth Management team. It is so good to know. This has been fantastic. And Bill and Jeremy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, members, for joining us today. Firelands Federal Credit Union Lunch and Learn. A sincere thank you to these guys, Bill Murray and Jeremy Pifer, for sharing their expertise on how tax-aware estate planning helps you protect what you've worked so hard to build. If you're ready to take the next step, our wealth management team is here to support you with clear, confident guidance. Visit firelandsfcu.org to connect with us directly and start building a plan that puts your family's future first. We appreciate you spending your time with us. My name is Daniel Smith.